What is up, ladies, gentlemen, listeners of the Didn't Ask podcast? Welcome back to another episode of this right here podcast, the Didn't Ask podcast, the question where I dive into the world of Reddit to see what the people asked Reddit and didn't ask me. How's everybody doing? I hope you guys have listened to episode 50 because it was a special episode. It was a Am I the Asshole special where I dove into the Am I the Asshole Reddit and just searched that place and answered a lot of questions because, as you know, or maybe you don't know, but soon will know, I answer one Am I the Asshole question every week on this right here podcast. But because episode 50 was such a special number, I was like, you know what? We're gonna change it up a bit. We're gonna just answer Am I the Asshole questions. So I have 5 Am I the Asshole questions to fill out 30 minutes of content. And man, it was a fun show, let me tell you that. But let's not dwell in the past all too much. This is a new episode 51, so let's jump into the first question coming from the Ask Reddit Subreddit, asked by user Jurswar, and they ask, who is the best male character who isn't the badass? And this is really hard. It's a very hard question because there are a lot of characters that are badass in some way, shape, or another. So I am thinking very, very, carefully. I would say Dandelion in The Witcher, or Jesker. Is it in the Netflix adaptation? I think he is pretty cool as a character, even though he is heroic in moments, but I wouldn't say he's badass. I'm thinking harder. Because that is the one that Jesker is the one that jumps to my mind immediately when I think about a character that is not badass, but still is heroic in some way, shape, or another. Because, man, when I thought this question, I saw this question and I went like, oh, that should be a very easy question to answer. But thinking about it now, it's a lot harder than I think it was. So let me jump into the comments and see what the comments have to say about this. I mean, there is one by Enterprise with 3s as E's, and they say Dr. Dovenschmitz. And Dr. Dovenschmitz is indeed a fun character. He's really funny, and the way he makes his Inetos and always gets fucked over in some way, shape, or another by Phineas and Ferb. It's really funny. And yeah, he's not badass at all. He gets his ass kicked by a platypus every week. So yeah, I would say that is a good option. That is a very good option. I would say Ned from the new Spider-Man trilogy. I would say he's badass. He's the guy in the chair, like he stays out of most action. But I think that he's a very cool character, how he plays it, and of course, like the quick banter that they have, Ned and Spider-Man, where they talk to each other. Again, like I'm saying, like Ned is the guy in the chair. So yeah, I would say that is a good one. And I'm thinking harder, but I really cannot think of any other male characters right now. So let's go back to the question asked by user Jurswar, and they ask, who is the best male character who isn't a badass? And my answer to this question would be Jesker from the Witcher series. I think that he's very heroic and has some cool moments, but he's not badass. He can tell me a lot of things, but he's not badass. Then I would say Dr. Dovenschmitz, which was submitted by Enterprise in the comments of this question. I would say, yeah, that's a good question. That's a good answer to that question because, yeah, Dr. Dovenschmitz, he is a good character and he's very, in my opinion, well-rounded, even though he's very, one note in some cases. But he does have like dimensions to himself with his ex-wife and his daughter and his relationship with Perry the Platypus. Like there are so many things going on. So I think that is a good option. And finally, I would say Ned from the Spider-Man trilogy, the new Spider-Man trilogy, because Ned is also like very well rounded. He has dimension to his character, and I think that his dynamic with Spider-Man is so fun, where he is like the guy in the chair and is the tech guy and does the techie stuff while Spider-Man goes out and saves people. So yeah, thank you for your question, Juris War. Moving on to the second question of today, coming from user Kakuma underscore queer, and they ask, which movie have you watched more than 3 times and you would love to watch over and over? I think I have already mentioned this on the podcast before, but if I haven't, then here I go. I am a big fan of the movie La La Land. When that movie came out, I was just like, okay, well, it basically went by very quickly, in my opinion. And after that, it gained traction, that movie. It started getting into the Oscar nominations, and people were talking about it constantly about La La Land and what it does for movies and for film, and how it's not a musical, or how it is a musical, and whatever. So I was just like, well, I'm getting a little, interested. What is this La La Land thing? But right at that moment, luckily, they re-released the movie in IMAX theaters to take full advantage of the larger screen and the better sound. So I was like, whoa, that's great. This is the perfect moment to dive into La La Land. So I went to the movie theater, got my IMAX tickets, sat down in the IMAX theater, and watched La La Land, and immediately fell in love. And after that moment, I have seen La La Land like 3 or 4 times since it came out, maybe even more. Like, I'm trying to, basically go back to La La Land every year, and I've had moments where I was like doing homework in college, and just put La La Land on for me to just listen and zone out a little bit and just get through the work. So La La Land is a special movie for me. I listened to the soundtrack. Listened to the soundtrack quite often, not as much anymore, but it is still there on frequent basis. I would say I go back to it from time to time. I have not really gone back to the movie lately, but I might want to do that soon because La La Land again is such a special movie, and it has two amazing actors in there, and the songs are, in my opinion, very recognizable and very iconic. It might be because I have listened to the soundtrack on repeat for days on end. But yeah, still, I think it's a very special movie, and I think that if you have not seen La La Land, please give it a try because it is such an interesting and fun movie, and it's a very real take on. I wouldn't say it's a very real take on a love story because we of course have like um the West Side Story, which is like Romeo and Juliet based, where it's just like, oh, there are two different families that are basically in a war against each other, and they are prohibited to love each other, whatever. Um, but in La La Land, it is very much like, oh, these people love each other, but they, spoilers, they figure out in the end that they are not made for each other, but they still have some part in each other's lives. And that is such an interesting way to basically end a movie because there are not many movies, in my opinion, or at least that I have seen, that are that way. We always know from whatever movie we see that we have a three-act structure where it's like in the first act they get to know each other, and in the second act, like the first act they meet, second act they get to know each other, and third act is like a happy ever after. But La La Land takes that to a completely different way, where you see in like the first, second, and like at first we see in the movie basically how their whole relationship goes from beginning to end, from them meeting to them basically breaking up and then going on with each other's lives. And it's such an interesting way to look at love stories. And again, it's something that we don't really see in movies that much. So when I saw that, and this was also like a speaking point when the movie came out, where people were just like, "Oh, I don't like this movie because the ending is bad." And in my opinion, it's not bad. It is a good ending because you see that they loved each other for the time that they were together, Sebastian and Mia. And in the end, they realized that, hey, they are not made for each other, but they were. So yeah, they weren't really made for each other, but they were right for each other at that time to grow further and see how their careers unfold. So yeah, going back to the question, it was a very long answer to that. Kakuma underscore queer. Which movie have you watched more than 3 times and you would love to watch over and over? To me, it would be La La Land because La La Land is such a special movie for everything I just mentioned. It is different than any other love story, and I think that the filmmakers did a very good job with that movie. So, yeah, I would love to go back to that from time to time. Thank you for your question. Moving on to the third question of today, coming from user Deep Fried Maghreb, and they ask, how do you feel about mint chocolate chip ice cream? Personally, I'm a big, big, big fan of anything that's mint flavored. I really like mint flavoring. And the funny thing is, with the question, it says mint chocolate chip ice cream. And mint chocolate chip ice cream, Jesus Christ, it's easy for me to say, is such an American thing, in my opinion. Like, I don't really think that we can get it here. Like, I bet that we can probably get it here where I live in the Netherlands, but it's probably gonna be Ben and Jerry's that provides that because chocolate chip ice cream, mint chocolate chip ice cream is not a regular thing here in the Netherlands. We have all your quote unquote basic flavors like vanilla and chocolate and strawberry and I don't know, pistachio and stuff like that. We got those flavors, but mint chocolate chip ice cream is not one of them. At least it's not one that you can regularly get at a grocery shop or a supermarket or whatever. Which is very interesting because it's and when I saw this question, I was immediately thinking like, oh, we don't really have that here. Are there any other things that we don't really have? And then I thought like everything that is peanut butter flavored in the US, we don't get. Peanut butter flavor is such a outlier here in the Netherlands that again you can get it in some forms with like a Kit Kat or a Twix or something that have like peanut butter cream inside. But that is a very odd thing to happen. Like we have peanut butter cups if you really look for them, but not really that popular here. And again, going back to the ice cream thing, you can probably get it when you order Ben and Jerry's or you get Ben and Jerry's. They probably will have a peanut butter flavor, but that is basically it for that. But the question was, how do you feel about mint chocolate chip ice cream? And my answer is, I fucking love that shit. I love mint flavor, like I just said. And adding the chocolate chips to that in an ice cream form, man, that's fantastic. And funny story, like a couple of years ago, I went to Los Angeles with my family to go on a family holiday, and we did like a road trip from San Francisco to Los Angeles, and it was such a fun time. And then when we got to Los Angeles, we went to the farmers market down at the Grove, I think it was, and we were just like, oh, we're gonna have some ice cream or whatever. And I was just like, can I get a milkshake? And then they were like, of course you can have a milkshake. What do you want? And then I was like, can I get a mint chocolate chip milkshake? And they were like, yeah, sure. So then I got a mint chocolate chip milkshake, and it was fucking awesome. Because first off, it's like Shamrock Shake. Shamrock Shake. We don't have that here either, which is fucking outrageous. McDonald's, please, can we get the Shamrock Shake for fucking St. Patrick's Day, please? But yeah, so it was a green milkshake with small pieces of chocolate chip, and I fucking sucked that shit down. That was fucking awesome. So, going back to the question asked by user Deep Fried McRib, how do you feel about mint chocolate chip ice cream? And I would say, I love it. Give it to me. Please, make some in the Netherlands. That is not fucking outrageously expensive like Ben and Jerry's is. Just give me some because it's really hard to get here, and I would like some mint chocolate chip ice cream from time to time. Thank you for your question, Deep Fried McRib. Moving on to the fourth question of today, coming from user underscore weird underscore pickle, and they ask, you become immortal, but you can pick one person to spend eternity with. Who would you choose? And for me, the answer I think is pretty simple. I would say Taylor Swift. I am a big fan of Taylor Swift, and if you don't know, now you know. And Taylor Swift, of course, is beautiful. So that's one thing. Can look at her all day, and she can sing me songs. And then, but what I'm thinking ahead. You know what I mean? I'm thinking ahead. I'm thinking of me having a relationship with Taylor Swift, and she can make songs about that, and then we break up, and then she can make songs about that, and then because we're the last two people on, I mean, not, but we live for eternity, so we are so connected in that way that we come back together, and then she writes more songs, and oh my god, there are so many songs coming out of this relationship. So please, Taylor Swift, become eternal with me. We want to be eternals. We want to live for eternity. So that would probably be my answer to you. Underscore weird underscore pickle. You become immortal, but you can pick one person to spend eternity with. Who would you choose? Simple answer, Taylor Swift. And why? Because I think ahead, bro. Like get we get each other. And I kinda, when I saw this question, picked it up differently, where it says that we are immortal. In my head, we were the last two people alive, which we're not. But again, I would think that there's gonna be a relationship that we can grow when we are two people that are immortal on Earth. So in some way, shape, or form, we will meet, because that is fucking weird. So I think that we can get a relationship out of that, and of course, I can get Taylor Swift music for eternity. Fuck yes, because she's gonna live forever, which means that there's a lot of love stories that she can tell. There are a lot of songs she can make. There's so many things she can do, and it's gonna be for eternity. So please, Taylor Swift, again, become eternal with me. Thank you for your question, underscore weird underscore pickle. And moving on to the final question from the Ask Reddit subreddit for today, coming from user Reddit Penguin02. And they ask, if you could have a Pokemon in real life, which one would you choose? This one is an interesting one because we just got a new Pokemon game announced this last weekend. It's gonna be Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, and I'm very excited for Pokemon Violet because purple is my favorite color, and there is now Pokemon Purple basically. That's fucking awesome. So yes, please. If I have to choose what Pokemon I would get, I'm gonna think about this because I am thinking about something that's useful. So it's either gonna be a Dragonair because it can fly, but it cannot fly, right? That's the joke with Dragonair. It has giant wings but cannot fly. Oh no, that's with Char. I don't fucking know. I know Pokemon a bit, but some of these minor things that are based in the games, I sometimes just go right over my head. So a Dragonair is up for grabs because he's a very cute dragon and it can fly, so it can take me places. But it's also big, so it can carry me. Someone here says Ditto, which that is a good option. But the thing is, Ditto is one of those weird Pokemon. I feel like where the lore is different than what we see, because I believe that Ditto can only mimic things that it sees directly. I believe. So that means that your Ditto is just gonna be a blob, and you can really not do much with that. Because again, according to this, is Pokemon is real life. So no, it's a okay. The question says, if you could have a Pokemon in real life, which one would you choose? So it doesn't really say if there are multiple Pokemon. So if you have a Ditto, you might be screwed here. But if we take the Detective Pikachu lore, Ditto can just change into whatever the fuck, because he can change into human beings, which is fucking weird. So yeah, I'm thinking, but I feel like Dragonair is a good option. That is a real good option. I'm scrolling through the comments right now, and somebody here says, JH CO022 says Jirachi, it can literally grant wishes. And that is a very good option. You can also pick Arceus because he's the god of Pokemon. So that would also be kind of cool. But Jirachi, that is a good option. So going back to the question asked by user Reddit Penguin 02, if you could have a Pokemon in real life, which one would you choose? And I am leaning towards a Dragonair because it's a big Pokemon and it can fly and looks fucking cute as shit. So I think that would be a fun option, and that means that I don't have to drive anywhere. I can just take my Dragonair and just fly. That would be fun. But Jirachi, like one of the commenters says, is a very good option. Is a very good option if you ask me. Thank you for your question, Reddit Penguin 02. And now moving on to the final question of today, coming from the MIDSL subreddit, asked by user said 2017, and they ask, am I the asshole for refusing to give my boyfriend my PIN number after he took my credit card without consent? This answer is going to probably be very easy. Title sounds horrible, but give me a chance to explain. I, a 24-year-old female, have been seeing my boyfriend Martin, male 30, for 8 months. He's super funny and sweet. He's currently out of a job for health reasons and he's actively looking for a new one. This was our first major fight, and I'm not sure whether I was at fault. 2 days ago, we spent the night together, and he went to the store early in the morning to buy some groceries. Unbeknownst to me, he took my credit card to shop with it. I got woken up by him calling, asking me to give my credit card PIN number. I was confused. I asked why, and he said he went grocery shopping with my card and forgot to ask me to give him the PIN before he left. I got mad and felt quite violated. I told him I was sorry, but I gave no permission for him to go out and shop using my card. He sounded confused and said he was just trying to buy us breakfast and it only cost $20. I said I was sorry, but refused to give him the PIN number. He obviously sounded upset and asked why. I told him because he didn't consider getting my permission to take my card and use it. He said, alright then, guess no breakfast for us, then hung up. I called and called, but no response. He returned and handed me the card back, then went on to complain about how he was just trying to buy us breakfast and that he wasn't intending on making a huge purchase. I said, I understand, but it's all about consent to me. He seemed pretty irritated and upset, though he said he was fine. He left after this and hasn't returned my calls. He then texted that he wasn't intending on stealing from me and that he thought that I wouldn't make such a fuss about it and that he did get my permission when he called to ask for the PIN number, but I feel like it's just me feeling a little like he violated my boundaries. He's been upset since then, saying I ruined our time together by making a huge deal out of it and embarrassing him at the store by making him return the stuff he bought at the register. Gosh, I feel like I was such an asshole here, but I do think that he could have asked first. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Am I the asshole or not? And I would say, no, you're not the asshole, he said, 2017, even though you might feel that way because you put him in basically a weird situation, but he took your credit card and then asked you for your PIN number. Like that is pretty big, and it doesn't really matter if he was intending on making a huge purchase, yes or no, because it's just about the fact that he took the card without your permission and then went on to just buy something without your knowledge of that. So that is really fucking weird. And yeah, like he could have just waited till you woke up or just paid for that shit himself. And I understand that he is out of a job, but that to me doesn't mean that you have no money. And if that is really the case, then he is taking so far advantage of you right now that I would just say cut it off to begin with. Because you're not going to tell me that this motherfucker doesn't have $20 laying around, or at least, $20 to get some breakfast. Because then, he is taking great advantage of you. So going back to your question, am I the asshole for refusing to give my boyfriend my PIN number after he took my credit card without consent? No, you're not the asshole. You're just trying to protect your money, and somebody that just steals your credit card is not somebody I want to be in a relationship with. So, might want to rethink your relationship here, Steady said, 2017. Thanks for your question, anyways. And that was it for the Didn't Ask podcast for this week, episode 51. I hope you had a good time. If you did, please leave a rating on Apple Podcast or on Spotify, because on both places you are able to leave a rating for this podcast. And if you do, I might read your comments on the next episode after I see them. You can go to anchor.fm/didn't-ask-pod. Over here, you can see all the places this podcast is available, like Podcast Addict and Pocket Cast, and you name it, it's probably there. So go to that website and see for sure. That website will be in the show description. And if you go to that website, you will also see a box that says message. And if you press that, you have the ability to record a voice message for me so I can answer your question personally. If you don't want your voice to be heard on this podcast, I completely understand. Just say it up front or somewhere in your message, and then I will read your question out myself so I can still give you the advice you want and need. I will be back next week, and if you want to know what I'm doing in the meantime, you can go to track.tv, and that link will be in the show description as well. Over here, you can see all the TV shows that I'm watching, like Euphoria, like Below Deck. We're now Below Deck sailing out. You name it, you see it there. You can watch all of it, and you can then follow along with me and maybe even ask me a question about one of those shows. So that is gonna be it for me for this week. I hope to see you back next week. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.